Hi, welcome to Computer Shop Video. I'm Chris Woodring, and today I'm here with Laura DeLon. Laura is a university accounting instructor and is very familiar with QuickBooks. She's a certified public accountant, and today you're going to be showing us a little bit about QuickBooks.
Yes, I'm going to be showing you basic navigation through QuickBooks and working with the lists in QuickBooks.
Okay, if you're used to viewing some of our other videos that are more technical, hands-on, where we're pointing the camera right at hardware and things like that, this is going to be a little bit different. We're actually using screen recording software, so most of this is going to be basically just voice instruction over screen recording. So we're going to go ahead and get started.
Okay, on this screen is the registration screen. Now we're not going to register right now because you can do this later, but the next time you open your QuickBooks, this reminder will pop up and you will click this button that says Begin Registration, and you will enter your unique registration number. But for now, click on the button that says Remind Me Later. The next screen that's going to pop up is the QuickBooks Learning Center, and this also will open each time that you open your QuickBooks, and this is a good resource for you. It is basically a tutorial where you can understand some of the basics of QuickBooks and learn more in depth about the different areas in QuickBooks, as you see on the left: customers and sales, vendors and expenses, and inventory. And notice it does give you the time for each of their little orientation videos. But for now, let's go down to the bottom right where it says Begin Using QuickBooks. Now we are on the QuickBooks home page, and I'm going to first show you how to navigate in QuickBooks. QuickBooks offers you usually at least 3 different ways to get to a screen that you're interested in. The most popular way to navigate in QuickBooks is on this large area, which is called the QuickBooks Navigators, and it's broken into different areas. Starting at the top is your vendors area, and notice how it's designed like a flow chart to follow the activities that you would have with your vendors. For example, it starts with a purchase order. This is where you would create a purchase order that you would send to your vendor, and then the next item on the flow chart is where you would receive inventory, and then you would enter your bills that you receive for the inventory, and then following the flow chart is where you would pay bills. The next section down in the navigator is the customer area, and again set up like a flow chart where you would create a sales order or an estimate if your company does estimates, and then to create an invoice you would click on this icon and then just follow the flow chart for the rest of the activities: receiving payments from your customers, creating receipts, and then eventually recording deposits in your bank, which leads us to the banking area where you would record deposits or when you need to reconcile with your bank account, writing checks, printing checks, and entering credit card charges. Okay, back to the left of the screen and the bottom is the employee area. So anything involving your employees you would find down here on the bottom: entering time for your employees, actually paying them, processing their checks, paying the payroll liabilities associated with your employees, and then also creating and processing your payroll forms. Okay, so basically this navigation area covers almost all the activities that you'll have with your business. Okay, one last area, the company area in the upper right, has kind of some miscellaneous items. The chart of accounts, this is where all of your company's accounts will be. Items and services, this is a list where you can get a quick view of all of the items that your company sells and services that you provide. And here's a miscellaneous item, just adjusting your inventory quantity if you have inventory. And then to the far right of the screen is a nice summary of some of your primary account balances. This gives you a quick snapshot of what your current balances are in your checking and savings accounts. Notice here, checking account and some savings accounts. Basically, you can customize this to show whichever accounts you want to show, just to give you a quick snapshot. Okay, so this is the primary way of navigating in QuickBooks, is following these flowcharts. Now, some other ways to navigate: if you go to the very top of the screen, you'll see a traditional menu bar. Some people still like to use this traditional menu bar, but notice it's got the same types of headings that we had in the navigation area. Got your company area, and then here's your customers, and I'll just click on the customers, and you'll see it's the same activities that we had on the navigation screen, creating estimates, sales orders, invoices, entering sales receipts, and so forth. So this is another way that you can process your activities with your customers, is through this menu. Here's the vendors. Again, entering bills, paying bills, sales tax, purchase orders, and receiving your items, and employees. Entering time, paying employees, and so forth. So the same activities we see in the navigation area. Okay, and then one other way to navigate is through this icon bar. And again, if you ever want to get back to the home screen, there's your home button. Your customer center, again, it gets you to your customer listings, vendor center, and employee center. Reports, we'll spend more time in this area in a later course, and then online banking. And this icon bar also can be customized to your taste, and we will spend some time again on that later. For now, I want to spend time going through the different lists that QuickBooks uses. Lists is a very user-friendly way that QuickBooks has set up for you to run your business. And notice up here in the menu bar there is an item that says lists. We'll click on this, and this gives you again a quick snapshot of the different lists in QuickBooks. Your chart of accounts, which is a listing of all your accounts, item list if you have inventory, fixed asset list, and so forth, kind of down the line here. Alright, but I'm going to show you the most popular way to get to your lists. Let's start in the vendor area, and if you will click on where it says vendors, okay, click on this, and now we are in what we call the vendor center. And this is a summary of all of your vendors in a list format. So down the left hand side are your vendors, and it has the current balance, what you owe these vendors, and whichever one you're highlighted on, which this one is A Chung Limited, to the right shows all of this vendor's information, their contact information such as address, phone numbers, and then down at the bottom it's a summary of all the transactions that you've had with this vendor. And then so let's click on another vendor. We'll click on, I guess that's California Gas and Electric. So we click on this, and then notice that now we see California Gas and Electric information and all of the transactions with this vendor. Okay, so very user-friendly. And if you would like to add a new vendor, then you would do this right here where it says New Vendor in the upper left corner. Let's click on that. And let's go ahead and add a vendor. I'm just going to make up a vendor name. How about Smith? I don't know if I can spell. Smith Manufacturing. If you had an opening balance with this vendor, then you would type in what that balance would be and the appropriate date, and you type in the address information. And I'll just make up some names. And we can type in the address. And notice I'm just pressing the tab button to move between fields here. Let's say their address is 123 Main Street. Okay, and then you can type in the phone number and fax numbers, email addresses, all the information that you needed. Now, the next tab, it says Additional Info. Let's click on this. If you have an account number with this particular vendor, you would type that in here. I'll just make one up. And also, you can categorize your vendors by type. And notice that in this sample company, QuickBooks has already got some different types. If this is a consultant vendor that you consider one of your consultants, you could select that. Could be a subcontractor, tax agency, or if nothing falls into those categories, if you click Add New, then we can set up our own vendor type. And I'll just make up one. We'll call this Industrial. And if it's a subtype of one of the other types, then you could type that in here. But we'll just leave it here and click OK. And now it's an industrial type vendor. Terms, this would be credit terms that your vendor is offering you. Their terms might be you have to pay in 30 days, so you can select net 30 days. If there's a credit limit that they've established for you, we could type that in. I'll type in 20,000, and notice you don't have to put any commas or decimal points if there's no change. No commas, just type in the number, and then I hit the tab key. The tax ID number of this vendor, if you know it, which you might not even know it. If this vendor is eligible to receive a 1099 form from your company, then you would check that here. And that way QuickBooks could track you know, how much their 1099 form would be that you need to send at the end of the year. I'm going to leave that unchecked for now. And then any other information that you wanted, maybe they offer some type of discount, you could put that here. And this is basically all the information you need for this vendor. You would click OK when you're done. Okay, and notice we're back out to the vendor center, and there is Smith Manufacturing added right down here at the bottom. Okay. Now, let's close out of the vendor center. Click the red X in the right-hand corner. Now let's go do the same thing in the customer center. So if you'll click on customers in the navigation area, and here we are to our customer listing, and notice it's the same design on the screen as the vendor center. And so if you'll click new customer in job, and when you click on that, it's going to ask, do you want to add a new customer or a new job? Well, this depends on your company. Our sample company here is a construction company, so construction companies usually have jobs as their different classifications. If you just want to add a new customer, just select new customer. And again, here's the same type screen that we saw with the vendors. So I'll just make up a customer name. About Jane Jones. Again, if there's already an opening balance, you would put that here. Type in their address information. Okay, other contact information such as phone numbers and so forth. Address information. Okay, and notice that's the billing address, and if it's the same shipping address, then you can hit this copy button, and it's going to say, is this the shipping address? And just select OK, and it automatically copies it into the shipping area. And notice if you ever wanted to edit this information, there are edit buttons. You could add a new shipping address if you needed to, and I'm going to leave this checked as the default shipping address. But you could create more shipping addresses if necessary. If you pull down this arrow, then we can add new shipping addresses, calling it, you know, ship to number 2, number 3, and so forth. Okay, let's go to the next tab, the additional info tab. Again, you can categorize your customers by type. If you pull down this arrow, right now we have commercial and residential customers, or you could create a new type. So I'm going to put add new, and I'll just create another industrial category because we might have some industrial customers if we're a construction company. Terms, now this time this would be the credit terms that you're offering your customers, and you could select any of these or create your own. I'll put add new, and we'll create our own. The name that you want to give this, we might be 5% in, let's see, 5%. You can establish the credit terms for your customers. You can select one of the preset credit terms already in QuickBooks or create your own. If you want to create your own, you click Add New, and you can create your own. I'll just select one of these. Now rep, notice there's nothing here. This would be if you have sales representatives with your company. You could actually put in the name of the sales rep, or it could be an ID number for the sales rep that is associated with this customer. which I'll leave that blank for now. Preferred send method, email or mail, or you could just leave it none. Either way. Or there might be another method. You could add fax as a method. Sales tax information. First of all, under tax code, you want to tell QuickBooks if this customer is taxable or not taxable. It depends on the customer and also depends on your business. I'm going to go ahead and leave this as a taxable customer. And then you would need to tell QuickBooks what tax rate should you tax them. And this will have to be set up ahead of time depending on where you are located in the country. Notice there are some preset items here. You have to set up both local tax and state tax. So you would first get those set up, and then you would select from the list as to which one this customer falls into. And if there's a resale number associated with this customer, then you could add that in here. Price level. Again, this will be dependent on your company as to what you would select here, or you could leave it blank. And then there are some custom fields that you could design here. Contract numbers, if you have those for your jobs, you could put the birthday of your customer, spouse's name. And let me show you here how you create custom fields, because we saw this in the vendor area also. At the bottom of this custom field screen, you see it says define fields. Click on this, and here is where you create your custom fields. Notice there are already some entered here, and if we wanted to add another one, we would just click in the next available opening and type in whatever the custom field is. I might put pager number. Okay, then you can tell QuickBooks if you want this custom field for your customers. Select that. Vendors, and maybe your employees also. You might want to know this information for customers, vendors, and employees. You select OK. It says you've activated custom fields for this list. You can also use these fields in transactions by turning them on in your custom templates. Just hit OK for now. Okay, and notice that our custom field has been added right here on our customer screen. And once we finish this customer screen, we'll go open our vendor screen again, and we'll see that this pager number field has also appeared in the vendor area. All right, payment information. Again, if you're assigning your customers account numbers, you would put that information here. Credit limit, if you assign your customers a credit limit. Preferred payment method. This customer might have a preferred payment method, particularly with credit cards. You would select one of these credit cards, and then you could actually go ahead and enter the number, expiration date, name on the card, so forth. So that would just make transactions with this customer a lot quicker. Finally, job information. If you set up jobs for particular customers, then this would be useful. For example, a construction company does typically have different jobs for their customers. You could set up the job status. Maybe it's pending. Maybe you've put out an estimate. Maybe you've been awarded the job, or it's currently in progress, or it's closed. You could put start date, projected end date, actual end date, and then a description of the job, and then job type. If you pull down the arrow, since this is a sample construction company, again, they've got some different job types here: remodeling, new construction. We could add a new job type. Not all companies are going to use this job info tab, but it is there if you find it useful. Okay, so we've entered everything for this customer. So click OK. And here's our customer, Jane Jones, balance of 0. And here is all the contact information and summary information. Of course, no transactions yet. Okay, so that's how you enter a new customer. Go up to the upper right and hit the red X. We're back to our home page. Now, one more time, I want us to go into the vendors. So click the vendors button. And I'll show you that where we entered. Okay, we're back in the vendor screen. And I want to show you that we entered a custom field, and I want to show you that it does appear in the vendor area also. I'm just going to click on a vendor, and notice that I double-clicked on this vendor's name, and it gets me into the Edit Vendor screen. And if we go to the Additional Info tab, under Custom Fields, here's the pager number. That was the custom field that we created just a few minutes ago. All right, I'm going to cancel to close out of this. Okay, so any vendor or customer that you want to edit, notice that you can just double click on the vendor and it gets you to the edit screen. And let me cancel this. Or you can always right click with your cursor. If you right click on the highlighted vendor, then you could go down to edit vendor and you'd be right back here in the edit screen. Okay, one more area I want to show you is the employees listing. So at the bottom left is employees, so we'll click there. And you'll see that this is all starting to look very similar because all these screens are designed in a similar manner. This is your listing of employees. We have 3 of them. And again, we can go add a new employee. So select new employee in the upper left corner. And this looks slightly different. Notice it says tabs. We've got our personal info tab. So here you would enter the name of the employee. So I'll just again make up an employee. We'll say this will be Mr. Alright, Mr. Keith Smith. And you would put in their social security number. I'll just make one up. And gender. You can put in the date of birth. I'll just make up the date of birth. Okay, address and contact information. You just type in their address. And select the state. And I would just pull one, select the arrow to pull down the menu and select the state. Then you could type in phone number, cell number, fax number, email, so forth, if there's a PIN number. Okay, then go to the additional info tab. If you assign your employees ID numbers, then you could type it in here. Again, here's that same custom fields area we saw. You could put in their birthday, date of last raise, spouse's name, and there's the pager number custom field that we set up. So you can always add more custom fields, whether you're in the employee screen, vendor screen, or customer screen. Just you would select define fields and add in your new fields. Now back up here to where it says change tabs, if you pull down the arrow and you've got the payroll and compensation info. So select this, and here's where you would put in the payroll information for this employee. Under earnings, if they are an hourly rate, then you would type in what their hourly rate was. If they were salaried, then that would have to be set up ahead of time in another area of QuickBooks. Now some of these items in this payroll area would have to be set up ahead of time, which we'll spend another video going over payroll. But once these items were preset, then you would enter them here. If this was an hourly employee, then you would put in their hourly rate. Pay period, if they're bi-weekly or weekly or monthly, you would select whichever one. Your additions, deductions, and company contributions. Again, some of these are going to be preset ahead of time, but for right now, in the sample company, they do have a mileage reimbursement, health insurance, workers' compensation set up. So you would select whichever ones of these applied for your employee. Taxes, if you select the taxes, this is where you would put in this employee's tax information. Their filing status, are they single, are they married, or don't withhold, married using single rate. Any allowances that they might have, that's usually how many dependents you have. It might just be 2, 3, might just be 1 if they're single. Any extra withholding they want withheld from their paycheck. And then down here, are they subject to Medicare, Social Security, federal unemployment tax, which that's something that's company paid. But pretty much everyone's going to be subject to Medicare and Social Security. All right, then you go to the state tab and put in the state where they've worked, which that should come up as what you put in earlier for their address. And the state withholding, which again should be the same as where they live. filing status, extra withholding, again, allowances, some miscellaneous data. And notice it says depends on states selected. Different states have some different taxes that might be withheld. So a lot of that QuickBooks will pull up automatically based on the state that you selected. And then finally there is an Other tab, and this is usually used for local taxes. Since we selected California, this tax automatically pulled up because it's California. But some states have no local taxes, so nothing might pull up here. It just depends on the state. Alright, so select OK, and we'll close out of this tax area. Also, there's sick and vacation button. Here you can put in how your company accrues sick time and vacation time. And this is going to be very unique to your particular company. So you can just fill in these items as they apply to your company. Alright, I'm just going to hit cancel to close this. And then direct deposit. Again, this would have to be something set up through your bank. If you are working online with your bank, then you may be able to do direct deposit into your employees' bank accounts. Okay, back up here to change tabs, pull down the arrow, and we can go to employment info. And this is pretty short. You just put in the hire date of the employee, their release date or last date of employment, and employment details, regular, officer, statutory owner. You can select those. Back up here to change tabs. The last one is workers' compensation. It says use the menu below to assign a default code to this employee. If this employee is exempt from workers' comp, choose exempt from the menu. Okay, so again, if you offer workers' comp, then you would select one of these items. Alright, so hit OK, and we are done with adding an employee. And notice, here's our employee and the different information. If you need to edit any of that information we put in, you can click Edit Employee, and we're right back to the edit screen. I'll cancel that. Or you can always come over here to the employee and right-click or double-click, and it will also get you to that edit screen. If I right-click, then there it is, Edit Employee. Okay, so let me go over here to the red X to the upper right and close. Okay, so we've covered the main lists in QuickBooks: vendors, customers, and employees. And the one last list I want to show you is the chart of accounts. And you can get to it here in the Company Navigator, or if you go up to the top gray menu under Lists, it says Chart of Accounts. You can click there. And you'll probably need to maximize this, so hit the blue square, the Maximize button. And this is simply a listing of all of your accounts that are set up for your QuickBooks company. Notice it's organized starting with your checking and savings accounts. So you got the name of the account in this first large column, and then the type of account it is: bank account, which are your cash accounts, your receivable accounts, which is that's what your customer owes you, and other asset accounts, fixed assets, accounts payable, which that starts off our liabilities, credit cards, other liabilities, long-term liabilities. If we scroll down a little bit, get to the equity accounts, which that's the owner accounts, and then your income, also known as revenue accounts, and then at the very bottom, which is most of the list, is your expenses. Right, cost of goods sold is an expense, and all the rest of these, as we scroll down, are expenses. Okay, so pretty long listing, and we have kind of some miscellaneous items down here at the bottom. So let me scroll back up. Alright, so notice the last column to the far right is your balance. Notice that QuickBooks only shows balances for your asset, liability, and equity accounts, because these balances carry forward from month to month, year to year, whereas your revenue or your income and expense accounts do not carry forward from period to period. So, but this gives you a quick view of basically what's going on with your business, what you have right now, what you owe right now. And just another list.
Well, I don't think that was too hard. I think even I could understand that. That's going to wrap it up for this this episode of Computer Shop Video. I hope you enjoyed the video. There are other videos in the QuickBooks series, and we're continually adding them, so look forward to those. We'll see you soon. Thanks for visiting.